Well, we're well into the term at this point, beginning the first week of Module 2. In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the nature of the module and specifically about week number 1 of this unit. We have two themes in Module 2. One is we're looking at the nature of the 3 different basic research approaches in social research, and the second theme that we're looking at will be how to engage a scholarly journal article. They're not the easiest things to read and understand, so we'll give you some suggestions about how to maybe dissect a journal article and some practice at doing that. That's coming up in week number 2. But for right now, let's talk about week number 1. And what were the assignments and just a few comments about the nature of the material. First of all, your assignment will include the reading of 3 chapters, 8, 9, and 10. That's a pretty heavy reading load for 1 week. That's the bad news. The good news is that once you get those 3 chapters read, we don't use the textbook in terms of formally anyway, reading for the rest of this term. But remember, you will be using the textbook in other classes, so hang on to it. Don't get rid of it just yet. But you do read chapters 8, 9, and 10. Each one of those chapters deal with an individual research approach, so bear that in mind. And of course, we're talking about quantitative research, qualitative research, and mixed methods. This first week will be concluded by a discussion forum. Remember to post your response to the prompt that I provided on the Foxtel site. Do that by Friday. And then please make sure that you respond to your colleagues by Sunday night, and we can conclude week number 1 of our second module. Okay, so the assignments are pretty straightforward, although the reading is a bit heavy. Now, in terms of just a little bit of comment about the material that you're dealing with. In this first week, we're dealing with those 3 different approaches to social research: quantitative research, qualitative research, and mixed methods. They have certain similarities and they have some pretty important differences. So bear with me just a little bit as I give you a heads up on what to think about as you approach this the material for this unit. Keep in mind that all 3 of these approaches have something very important in common, and that is they are all devices used for researchers to collect data in a systematic way in order to get precise insight on some issue, some topic. Okay, so they have that much in common. They all are systematic ways of collecting data and analyzing those data and making sense out of them. But beyond that, they have some pretty significant differences as well. In quantitative research, the data will all be translated in some way into numerical form. So the data are going to be represented by numbers. And that means they have to be analyzed numerically, or if you will, statistically. So I tell my students that in quantitative research, data are numbers. Okay. So if the data are being presented in numerical form and analyzed statistically, you're dealing with obviously a quantitative research effort. Now, those statistical procedures can run the range. They can be something very, very rudimentary, like just simple means, an average or a mode or a median or something like that. Or it could be highly complicated. It could be these really sophisticated multivariate kind of analyses, regression analyses or something that you likely will not understand, and that's okay. Because oftentimes some of these journal articles can present highly precise and not really very commonly used statistical procedures by a lot of people. So they sound very mysterious. But that's the reason why we're going to go to week number 2. We're going to try to give you some suggestions how to make sense of some of that. In qualitative research, it's a different animal. In qualitative research, if the data are numbers, in quantitative research and qualitative research, the data are words. Okay, so what happens here is that the researcher goes out and also collects data systematically, but rather than presenting those findings in numerical form, the researcher will present the findings in a narrative form, will describe and discuss what he or she discovered. Okay, so oftentimes in quantitative research, by the way, some of the typical kinds of research methodologies include surveys and experimental designs, or perhaps existing data, which is often the case in education where we use standardized test scores to analyze. In qualitative research, one of the most common ways in which we collect data is through personal interviews. We go out and talk to people, and we get their perceptions and their experiences and collect them. And one of the things that qualitative researchers often will do is to present their findings as themes. Okay, these are common threads in the interviews that they found, that they interviewed somebody or a group of people on some issue, and they found certain commonalities that they were suggesting in terms of a common perception or a common experience. They'll call them themes. And so oftentimes you'll see that in qualitative research. In mixed methods, it's just what the name says. It's where you have a little bit of qualitative and a little bit of quantitative integrated together in order to get a fuller picture on a social issue or an educational issue. It's a very challenging way to do research. Mixed methods requires a lot of talent to pull it off in a coherent way. We often find mixed methods in case studies, which are often found in education, by the way. So this is what you're going to be doing in unit in unit 2. And the first week is simply exploring these different research approaches, getting acquainted with them as a way to build a foundation for next week when we take a look at a journal article and start to dissect it. If you have any questions, please contact me. Good luck, everyone.